Okay. So we're about 15 minutes into it, and we started talking. For those of you that will be listening to this call and realize it's started into the session. So this call is for the first of the Capricorn moons, the full moons that we will have on June 21st of 2024. And, of course, the second one will bookend on July the 21st of 2024. And a couple of participants were asking some questions regarding scalar waves and animanton particles and how we're creating with all of this. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and start this recording with. And to backtrack with it just a little bit, welcome to anybody that's just gotten onto the call or happens to get this on YouTube. And for those of you that don't know it, I have sent out links on the emails, which is basically, it's just a link to my YouTube, well, one of my YouTube channels where I'm uploading all of these calls. I'm transferring them to YouTube format, to an MP4, I guess, format. I have to transfer it all so that people can, go back and listen to it easier later. And you can, when you're re-listening to these, just scroll through to any point, if you want to just re-listen to the meditation part again, which is the really intense energy where we really go in and do the transmutation work and the clearing. The whole call is encoded, with the immediacy of the light language that you're coming in for in that particular moment. So, and again, this call is for the first Capricorn moon, which is I think it's 1 degree, maybe 7 minutes of Capricorn. And the purpose of this moon series right now, it's basically a bookended on each end of Cancer. And Cancer, the sign of Cancer is all about the home and the hearth. It's our emotional body. It's how we perceive ourselves through the deepest aspect of our heart center and awareness. And there's no coincidence that this is happening right now. It's a couple of months after the beginning eclipses back in March and April of this year. And yet it's also very instrumental in shifting who we are before we come into a manifestation of the next set of eclipses, which will be at the end of September and 1st of October, which are leading up, before election time in the United States and things like that. And I'll go into a little bit more with that. But these are really powerful times, and what we're doing is shifting a lot. So Capricorn is about structure, and it has to do with how we perceive ourselves as structure, not just with the physical body that we're in, but also the things that lead to the structure of our emotions, the things that lead to the structure of our mental awareness, but also our spiritual awareness. All of those things come from structure in the way the old form has been. And at the same time, we're also dissolving those structures. And the fact that this is coming up as we've gone into the final dip back in, we're going to be going into the final dip back into Capricorn. That will be, let me see, I want to say it's September, October, November, I think. Hold it. No, Pluto went back into Capricorn, I think, in May. We're already in it. So, but this is going to be the last time that we're doing this for 248 years, and it's a really big deal. And the last time again was the Constitution of the United States was formed. Lots of challenging energy back then, and we're doing that now, not just on the personal level but collective. The main thing I think we're focusing on is what does this mean for us personally. Of course, because once we shift it internally, the external follows us. And so because it's an inside job, it starts with us internally. And as we shift internally, the external reality has to follow. It's always been that way. It's just that before we allowed ourselves to be conditioned by everyone out there, through educational systems, cultural systems, beliefs, national, whatever it is has been projected onto us. And we're really in the final death throes of throwing that off if we're open to it. And so, again, think of anything in Capricorn, the structures that deal with the emotional body, which is Cancer. So, again, this first full moon is at 1 degree of Capricorn. The next full moon is also Capricorn. That's going to be a blue moon. This one's a strawberry moon. But that blue moon is going to be at the 29th anaretic degree of Cancer. And so, I'm sorry, 29 Capricorn, but it's going to be on the last part of Cancer. So it's bookending the way we perceive ourselves in the emotional body, the way we see ourselves within our family dynamics, the way we create a home, what we call home, our sense of really being deeply grounded here at the depth of our own heart centers. And if you're listening to this call, you've already done that type of work, I would think, unless you just find the call from someone that's just suggested it to you. And so what this all means is that we're really being invited to go into any place within our perception of our own reality that no longer serves us. And the full moons are always about releasing energies. So if there's any other place, and we've talked about these in other calls, where we're out of alignment with our highest potential, it can be family, friends, business, partnerships. It doesn't matter what the dynamic is. If there's any place in your life where something is out of the deepest integrity of what you want to create for yourself, or that your higher self wants to release. So there may be places that are still unconscious within you that are going to be, coming up for it's a time to say goodbye. And it doesn't have to be a shocking thing. It does not have to be a difficult process. And yet there are things, even I have been surprised with a couple things. It's like, oh, really? I didn't realize I was still carrying something with that. We really are going in on the core level. This is the Ann Ortley used to talk about, the astrologer. She used to say that we would go through different processes where we're scraping the inside of the mayonnaise jar, trying to get every little bit out. But I think I've mentioned this before. This is like taking an acid wash, and literally getting ourselves into pure, pristine, cleanliness, going into the next crucible. It's like fire energy, that's just going to burn off any residue that's left. So take anything that comes up, allow it to move through. Don't fight and don't try to deny anything that comes up. If there's any dynamic with your family, friends, nothing. Don't react to it, but do try to work with it into the extent that you go in and release it at your core. Because if it's come up for a reason. There are no mistakes. And I think that's, as we've talked about before, I think most everybody knows that. So we've got a whole month of this, basically 4 weeks. So we've got this first set of releases with this moon, which actually just happened when we got on this call at 8:03 or 8:07 tonight. So it's live while we're in this call. And it's also no mistake that this is happening the day after the solstice. This is the longest day on Earth, whether you're on the north hemisphere or the south hemisphere of the United States. It's literally the middle point before the changeover, and then the Earth just swaps. So they get shorter days on both sides, but of course we're going to go toward the winter time, and the southern hemisphere will go toward their summer. And so as we're going through that polarity, it's kind of bringing in, again, anything that just does not fit with our divine purpose. Now, as that's happening, know that, during the previous moons in Gemini that we've had, really we're opening up and seeding what we're wanting to create. What this is doing is clearing away anything that's like on the work. I mean, think about it as like a work site, like you're going to build a new house for yourself. This is clearing the land. It's clearing the place where you're going to create the foundation for what we're creating. And or think about it as, harvesting. So we planted the seed. We're now going to be nurturing the seed. We're going to be working in the soil. Capricorn. It's the hard work. It's the goat energy. And so it's like as we work with all of this, it's going to assist us when it comes time for harvesting, which is going to be October, November, and December. And that's when whatever it is that we really want at the deepest awareness is going to come into form, and possibly into next year as well. So think about, well, not just think, feel into, again, what it is that you want. And there's so many of us that really don't know who and what it is we want yet. I mean, it's percolating. It's there. It's in the cells. And it's already written in your birth chart. The other thing that I don't know how many of you, follow astrology or have astrologers you work with, but if you ever do, it might be a perfect time to seek out an astrologer to check out your progression chart, to see where your progressed chart falls. And then they can consciously assist you if you have a question on where, something you're creating, or have, questions on something. They could really assist you in showing you the areas of your life that are under huge transformation, because it's already in your life path. You may have awareness of it, what you're creating, but you may not. A lot of people are also creating what some would consider to be the miraculous in your life. Some people are creating technologically advanced ideas, concepts, ways of healing, manifesting that have never come forth before. And that's part of, Pluto going into Aquarius, which is going to be the 20 years after when it goes into it at the end of this year. Another thing that's really a very interesting dynamic is this last Mercury retrograde, that it was dancing around all in Aries during the eclipse season. Mercury is the communication. And a lot of times when we talk about, Gemini and communication and Mercury, we think about what we say and what we do, what we read, whatever's communicated in written form or spoken form. The other part of this communication is happening on a deep internal level. It's happening as pure awareness. It's happening as your DNA is awakening on a quantum level, and it's waking up to your gifts that you may or may not know you have. And that's something that's going to process through the rest of this year. And depending on who you are, where you're on the progression of your soul, those things are just going to just come up and start awakening. And the point of the Mercury thing is it's affecting all of April, May, June, and July. And there was an article I read that called it an invigorating dance with nature. So imagine what that would look like. It's like Mercury or Hermes, it's kind of like a guide to the souls. It's a divine trickster, and it goes in and it plays with us. But it's also happening on a deep cellular level. And so as we continue to awaken, and there's so many things happening in the astrological world that are affecting us on a cellular level. We've got Saturn between I guess maybe 11 and 18 degrees, I believe it is, of Pisces. Pisces, of course, is the hidden realms. It's the deeply spiritual realms. Saturn's the work we come here to do. Saturn is about to go retrograde. It's, I think, next week, actually. And so it's going to be taking us into the core of who we are as an internal job. You know, it's shifting who we are, how we work. In addition to that, we've got Neptune, which is it's literally at 29 and 55. I mean, just right before it goes into Aries as a new creation next year. And again, that's no mistake with that either. The anaretic degree, though, is very challenging. So it's any place where in your life, if you've had delusions or something or someone you've been working with, if there's anything hidden, big secrets, it's that whole area that's hidden from us. Neptune is very, and again, you know, with Gemini as a trickster, things can come up for us that we thought was a reality, and yet when we go deeper, it's not true at all. And again, this ties in with Capricorn, the Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, continually dissolving structures. As you allow all of these old structures to fall apart, then there's only the immediacy of awareness. And I feel like, to me, when I go into this, it's allowing for those adamantine particles to be worked with and created in a core level. So in answer to, again, to address the scalar waves, the adamantine particles make up the scalar waves that lead to creation and form, except it's going to be more of a divine creation. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on. And but it's happening on the cellular, on the atomic and subatomic levels of who we are. Except it's awakening the DNA with us. And so if the deeper you can go into meditative practices, the deeper you can sit and just allow your internal sense of self inform you on what you need. And again, we're in a place where imagine that all of us, and there's 8 billion souls on the planet, imagine that God were to throw us all up in the atmosphere and just find out where we're going to land. It's kind of like what's happening. So that would be individual people, but imagine that all of the cells that make up your body are being thrown up into the universe, and they're all going to fall apart, but then come back together and create a different form. That's really, in essence, I think, what's happening. And so, as we allow these structures to fall apart, again, this is the first full moon in Capricorn structure, but it's the emotional structure that made up our old life. So from that place, we're invited to feel into who we thought we were and release any part of that that's not been released yet. And during these last few calls, we've gone in on deep meditations to heal ourselves, to clear on, really core levels of ancestral karma, generational inheritance, and go back to 0 point. We're still doing that, except this moon, because it's a Capricorn full moon, again, releasing moon, it really assists us in releasing these things at the deep cellular level. And the deeper we can go into our hearts, then we will go into the greater frequencies, which will allow all of the particles to fall away that need to fall away, while at the same time have a divine realignment of the adamantine particles to come in and really coalesce and work with what we seeded in creating during those Gemini moons last month, during the last 2 calls. And actually, I think it was Gemini and Sagittarius. So that's in a nutshell what we're doing in these particular energies. And let me see. A couple other things I was going to say. I know some of you in the past, Jude and I talked about Lauren Gorgo I don't know if there may be a few of you on the call that aren't familiar with Lauren. Anyway, her name's Lauren, Lauren, Gorgo, Gorgo. Her website is basically think with your heart, all one word, .love. Now there's .loves out there. So, but she really has always been perfect at articulating what's happening on a cosmic level as far as who we are representative in as cosmic awareness. And the last couple of things that she wrote, usually her stuff, I mean, she's a subscription service, but I mean, she's really worth it. I mean, when I print, it's usually about 13 pages, but just perfectly articulated information. On May the 7th, what she wrote then was called Reborn as Love, the Walk of Freedom. And she really talks about it being, that Taurus new moon at that time was a palpable fresh start, officially exiting the eclipse portal and, creating for the next 8 weeks an intense inner exploration and transformation. She talks about walking through an exhaustive death of our past to rewrite our old earth beginnings, but creating the new. So, and then the next one she wrote about on June the 6th was the solstice seeding cycle, and talking about our ripening first fruits. And so she's, again, speaking individually and collectively, but kind of explaining, what we're creating as we go through a full light body activation. And I know a lot of people hear references to things like that, and if they're not really deeply immersed in their heart and not been taken into it, they're not really activated to perceive what that means, on a deep level, reactivating a light body. And of course, I mean, if you're on this call, then chances are that you have worked with Jude and she's worked with you on that before, and you're already in that. And we've worked on reactivating those things and clearing and, doing all that in the last few calls that we've done. I think this is like maybe the 8th call we've had so far. And I really just wanted to say, really want to give all of you a deep amount of gratitude and appreciation for the fact that we've gotten together, to recreate these calls again. I think they've been perfect for all of us, and everyone that's articulated, a message with me have said that's been really true. So, yes, so I hope that helps kind of give you a good understanding of where things are. I forget which moon it is that we've got in 2 weeks. It's a new moon. Again, the new moons are seedings. It's creating. You're creating from nothing. And then again, we'll have the second full moon in Capricorn, which will be at 29 degrees, on July the 21st. So, and again, the 21st is an interesting thing. I mean, 2 and 1 dissolve to a 3, and that's Holy Trinity. So you get that bookending on Capricorn, and so whatever we're releasing now is going to be things that are easily released without, I think, too much effort. As we go into the deeper journey in Cancer, which again is feeling into our emotions, feeling into ourselves, and feeling into what's really true, and allowing Spirit to really download us and awaken who we are at the deepest core, then there'll be another level of release with that second Capricorn moon, which is really, really, really going to clear any of the last, I think, density to the progression of our soul, wherever we are, that's going to allow for the next step of just pure isness to come in. And it's happening on such a level where I think we're going to perceive it where we're going to lose time. You may sense that you're losing time. You're going to sense that you're jumping timelines. I've already, I don't know how many of you are sensing that, but I mean, there'll be like today I may wake up and I'm in one reality, and a couple days later I'm in a whole different. It's like, what the hell happened to 2 days? I mean, I feel like everything has disappeared. Like 2 months have changed. I mean, we really are going into slip-slidey reality. And Jude used to talk about this a lot because she was living in it all the time. I mean, we were too, but we weren't really, I think, taking it in as deeply at that point. So I think that this whole shift in Cancer between these moons is really going to shift our perception of reality and where we are. And so it's difficult to put these things into words that we can understand, because it really is multidimensional awareness just really barreling in on us. And so also imagine that you were able to bilocate through the universe. And we're also working with ourselves on quantum levels in the old timelines and releasing so much stuff. So, I mean, when we're doing that, and again, there's just so many things you can say that can take you into this. So I guess I've articulated all I can really say on it without going in on an energetic level, and just actually sitting with this and allowing these shifts to come in, allowing Spirit to come in with us, and the entire company of heaven and Mother, Father, God to go in with us. So on that note, I think I'll go ahead, and we're almost at 8:45, so we'll go ahead and start the deeper part of this meditation process, and allow for any additional clearing and recalibration. This is more like a recalibration time, I think. So, okay, so depending on where each of you are, just go ahead and get still if you haven't already. And if you're in a home where you've got other people and things need to quiet down, maybe go into another room, and then just let's go into cosmic awareness. And again, too, I mean, you're always invited to, when you find time at home in between things that happen in your daily life, you're invited to learn how to, if you're not already doing it, and I think many of you are, just go in on much deeper levels of your own capacity and working with this energy, calling in with Mother, Father, God, and the entire company of heaven, all the archangelic kingdoms, all of the ascended masters, their infinite presence. Again, these are all the ones I call in. And you don't have to call them by name. You just call in the whole group, and it pulls in everyone. The elemental kingdoms, very important, because they work with everything on the elemental core levels. And then the seven mighty Elohim builders of form. And, of course, Saint Germain and the violet flame. And the diamond Christ light, which basically activates the adamantine particles. And then the 12th golden ray, I always pull in. I mean, there's different golden rays for different color rays with different parts. But I like the 12th golden ray because it activates from the golden sun and the great central sun. So let's just go in and allow ourselves to just go into a 0-point awareness. Let any of the parts of ourselves fall away that have not yet fallen away during any of the other calls we've done, any other meditation practices you do with other people, any other workshops you may be going with. Just really let wherever you are currently in, let that space really just go to a 0 point. For some, you may find that you have a lot more density to allow to fall away. For some of you, you've already been clearing in such deep transformation metamorphosis that you feel the scalar waves, you feel the adamantine particles, and you feel presence just emanating from the core of who you are. And again, there's no comparison here. You just are where you are. Allow the mind to just quiet and just go away. Just go into cosmic awareness. Some of you will perceive scalar waves just inundating in your body. You're also invited to participate. If there's a part of you that feels like there's a place of stagnation, if there's something that comes up in your mind that you really want to clear and you don't feel like it's been cleared immediately with something we're doing in the call, you absolutely can sit there just in pure presence and ask that God and the entire company of heaven go and clear that for you. Be co-participative in anything that you're doing. I'm not your guru. There's no one else on this planet that really should be taking the place of you taking your power. Not ever. You know, we do these calls and we do them for the purpose of bringing together a common space for our own personal transformation as well as transmutation and shifting that out into the world. But I really am only a conduit for each of you to take your power if there's places where you haven't taken your power. So go in and really ask yourself what needs to be cleared. That's the other part that we're going into with these moons in Capricorn. It's about taking our power, individually and collectively. So if there's a place where you've got something that's stuck with you and a family member or someone you work with or a friend or a neighbor, whatever it is, go in and ask, work with Mother, Father, God, and ask that it be cleared. Place your awareness there and own the fact that you are co-creating the clearing. You're doing it. Take ownership of the totality of who you are. Just because I may be articulating to bring in the entire company of heaven does not mean that your soul is not in a place of complete union and communion with all of these beings. This is your divine soul contract. This is your divinity meeting you if, for some reason, you don't think you've been in that space. Take your power. You're not taking your power through your mind. You're taking it through your heart. Your mind is now subservient to the cosmic heart of God. If you're in this call, if you've missed other calls, then you may feel like there's a gap. And yet I'm telling you that there's not a gap. Everything's a frequency. Anyone listening to this call has been led here because they're at this particular frequency. And this call has exactly what's needed to assist the soul that's listening to anything in this call, to assist them in shifting and creating from a higher perspective of reality. If you've made it to this call and you may find, oh, that's work I did 2 or 3 years ago or 10 years ago or 30 years ago, then you'll move on and you'll find a more appropriate frequency. You will know exactly and be led to exactly what you need to find. That's how the universe works. It's all frequency. We're all part of the transmission. That's how the New Earth tribes are finding each other, is through frequency. We've all gone into, over these calls from back in March, we're now at a place where we're grounding who we are in the core of our emotional body. And we're taking our power. You, the listener, are taking your power. What does that mean? If you're having a place where something comes up in your mind and it wants to sidetrack you, just observe it, don't judge it. Just let that soften and fall away. That's it. Feel into your heart and let this connection, reconnection, just come back into full awareness. This is the cosmic heart of God. It's the central sun, the great central sun, the great central sun, and so on and so forth. This is the center of the Milky Way. This goes all the way back to the core of creation. Feel how much density is falling away from old stagnant patterns. Feel it falling away from your heart. feel how much lighter your heart is just as pure presence. Feel the shift in the cellular structure of your body as the heart center becomes enlightened. Again, it starts with the heart. As the heart lightens, so must every other cellular structure within your body. Feel lifetimes of density just fall away. There may be a part of you that wants to hold on to something as you feel all these different layers and levels disengage. Know that you're being met by Mother, Father, God. This is quantum healing at its core. This is pure immediacy. This goes beyond the scalar waves. This is pure knowing. At some point, if you're perceiving any waves coming through you, the waves will dissolve to go into pure particulates. They'll just be particles. Allow this diamond Christ light to permeate the entirety of who you are. It's always been here. It's just reawakening you. Feel this diamond Christ light just go into a deep immersion of the brain structure, of your own brain structure. How it softens and releases all of the old patterns. This is the old Capricorn structure of your third dimensional reality that held its place within the memory banks of how you've perceived your life up to this point. Feel the release of so much of the memory that you've carried for lifetimes, just dissolving and floating away. This is your genetic inheritance, floating away. Some of this you've carried for lifetimes. You've carried it as your karmic baggage. And yet, where we are in this particular moment of time, that of course doesn't exist, we're in a place where through pure grace, cosmic grace, we are allowed to let it go. Places where you had stagnation of energy in your body, places that have led to disease patterns. It could be any type of disease pattern. It could be any part of your body. Place a focus on any area of your body that you would ask to be co-creative with in clearing. This is you taking your power. For best results, don't go in with any preconceived notion of what you think it looks like to heal your body, because you don't. You just allow spirit to go there, and you get out of the way. This is immediacy. This is your whole entire chakra system in pure alignment, divine alignment with your etheric blueprint, and clearing any spiritual misconceptions, any mental miscreated thought forms, and any distorted emotional patterning that you allow to manifest into form. Feel how much lighter that your presence feels. And when we mention your presence, we mean the totality of who you are through the time-space continuum as a multidimensional presence. Some of you may be experiencing imagery that comes to you from concurrent lifetimes that you're operating in. You may even get visions of other timelines from thousands of years ago. Anything that comes in, just don't attach to it. Let it move through and just release it. That's the type of clearing that we're doing right now. You may feel a certain sensation that comes up in a part of your body. It could be in your neck, your back, your legs, the arms, fingers, toes. That could be an old injury just coming up to be cleared and released. Don't attach to it. Just feel it and let it move through. It's being gracefully released from your whole structure. We're now able to release things that we've carried for lifetimes because we've chosen to become so conscious and allowing ourselves to release on very core levels that we never were able to access before. That's the Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. All the hidden places, all the distortions. And of course, it's unique to each and every one of us listening to this call. It depends on where you are in the progression of the soul. Some of you will be able to release things on deep levels that you never dreamed possible. And again, this is quantum healing. How deeply can you fall into your own heart? We are so consciously working with this strawberry moon at 1 degree of Capricorn. Structures that we never dreamed we'd be able to release. Patterns and formulations that we've carried for lifetimes, just dissolving and falling away. Some listeners to this call will feel nothing, and yet they may release so many different levels and layers at their core, but they may not have an awareness of the release. Some of you listening to this call will feel such a profound depth of shift, of pure transformation and transmutation on the deepest cellular levels of your body, but also through the light body. Again, there are no right or wrong perceptions here. Just depends on where you are in the progression of the soul and how deeply you've gone into your own meditative work and practice of allowing yourself to know and to feel into who you are. Some of you messaged back and said that the last moon call we did on June 6th was the best one yet. That you had shifted so much and you gained so much clarity and you felt so much lighter than you've ever felt before. It was so wonderful to get that type of feedback, to know that some of you are being affected on really deep levels, but you're perceiving it and you know it. It's why I do the calls. And again, this is what Judith trained me to do. She's trained all of us to do it. And of course, if you're listening into the call, that's just part of our past. And I just bring it up as reference for anyone that's listened and been part of our past history with it. In this immediate moment, none of that past matters. We're really creating from a place that we've actually been here before because we are this, but there's no separation. We're just re-remembering on the deepest levels of who we are. Don't even try to track what's falling away. That may get you caught. You don't want to be caught, and you don't want to attach to anything that does want to fall away. Imagine how many things are in our lives that really don't need to be there. It's a great month to purge anything in your physical reality that no longer serves you. Anything that is assisting in providing a physical structure of your home. Anything that adds to the density. It's one thing that I'm still in a journey of working on myself, is releasing densification, the material world that I don't need. The lighter we are for where we're going, the better off we're going to be, because we can't take any of this with us for sure. It doesn't mean that we can't create a nice home for ourselves. At the same time, if there's things that we're holding on to that carry the history with us, we're invited to ask ourselves, do we need that anymore? just allow yourself to just fall really deeply into this transition and in the immediacy of love. And I know that each of you are in deep gratitude, as am I, that we've recreated this space to come together and create on the moon cycles, because it really, these are the potent points of manifestation, of release, and also new creation for ourselves. Again, thank you all for attending with us. And I will release you to stay in this space. You're invited to stay here as long as you can. And really heal on the deepest levels possible. And release so that you can allow for the highest potentiality of your new beginnings. Eternal love.